Hey everyone, this is Margaret, and I am with Lowe, WoodFork, and this is On the Men. And so I am very excited to be sitting here with my sister, my colleague, someone who is far more advanced in this subject than me, but it was something I have wanted to talk about because I absolutely love it.
I'm not that advanced, but you
So
know.
yeah, I love this topic, and the only reason I do is because a lot of us we don't realize how political the Bible may be. So let me finish with all the introductions and the accolades. Actually, because I'm a good Baptist, I'm gonna let her introduce herself with all of her accolades, titles, whatever they may be, because she's so modest. I put all of my little letters at the end of my name. She said none there. So and please tell them who you are and why we are here talking today. Because you are by far one of the experts that I consider. I mean, I follow you. So one of the experts I consider to know a lot about this topic and all this mess that we sitting in right now. So let them know who you are.
We are definitely in some mess right now, but my name is Reverend Amber Lowe WoodFork. Just call me Amber. I live in Atlanta. I am from Mississippi. Been here in Atlanta for about 8 years now. I came for seminary at the ITC because I discerned a call to preach. And so my background is in literature, English, but I went to seminary, pursued ministry. I'm an ordained elder in the CME Church. I'm a good Methodist.
Methodist.
Right. And I work in politics, in civic engagement and organizing. I used to work for the New Georgia Project on the Loose the Chains campaign, in which we organize faith communities around justice issues such as mass incarceration and voting rights. I work in politics as well. I've worked on several campaigns, statewide and local races, as far as, or such as rather, city council, lieutenant governor, U.S. Senate, Superior Court races. So I've worked in politics too for about 5 years now. And I'm also a PhD student at the Clark Atlanta University. Yes. Again, my background, my real passion is literature, particularly African American literature. Octavia Butler, Toni Morrison, Richard Wright, James Baldwin Wright. So I'm pursuing my PhD and inflecting some theological and political stuff in there as well, right?
Yes.
So
intersections. That's what we
all these intersections, right? Because I don't think that you can read any text, even the Bible, right, alone without looking at the various intersections and nuances, right?
Yes.
And so I try to take my theological training into everything I do, including politics, including civic engagement, including literature. So that's me. I'm also married, and I have a cat named Miss Chris.
Yes, I love Miss Chris. The story from Miss Chris. You need to write a book while you
sit. Girl. She'll be down here soon making a little cameo. She'll actually down here in a minute.
Cats love cameo.
Can I thank you though I want to thank you, Margaret, for inviting me. You are amazing. I first met Margaret at ITC. I think she was the TA at one point for Dr. Randall Bailey.
Yes, and then I got kicked out.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
That's a funny story. So I was put that out there. I was sitting there so happy because I knew that he told me he wanted me to do it, right? And then he said, "Are you a Hebrew Bible major?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Why not?" So he switched me. But no, I enjoyed TAing for you guys for the 4 weeks.
You know what? It was short lived. Like, you were the TA my first semester at ITC. You were the TA for like a month, and that was it. Now I remember this was like in 2012. It was a long time. It was like 8 years ago. It was a long time ago.
It was my assignment, and then long story, I had to get placed in my right space. So, but I should have been a Hebrew Bible major, and everybody who is like, why?
Yeah, no, you're
some of that tonight.
I look to you and a few others on matters of Hebrew Bible, right?
I love it.
Yeah, that's your thing.
I love it. So, well, let's get to it. I see people. So, you guys, I am not technically logically savvy. I probably even said that wrong. But the 3 people that I can see this on here, we are finna get to this conversation. Please like it, love it, share it.
Let me share it right quick. Can I share it right quick?
Yes, please share it right quick because
let me share it right quick. I'm sorry. I was supposed to have my laptop right here with me, and I forgot to get it. So I could share it. I'm using my phone.
Well, this is the beauty of this platform. And so because we absolutely believe you know what, that you can take your time and be yourself. So and that's the beauty of what we do right here on the men. Because we mending, everybody's mending. So it's really important.
Okay, I'm back.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say it's really important. Now, this topic is so important right now, and it just keeps adding. So I asked Amber about a month ago to speak with me on this topic, and then more chaos happened. You know, and feel free. I'm a cussing preacher, so sometimes it'll slip. But all of my friends are girls, so and sometimes it'll slip, but it's in an appropriate way. And so, you know, the shit hit the fan. It ran out the toilet in a bucket. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that happened. And a lot of it is politics and understanding of what they think they understand to be Bible. So really crazy. So it's really muddled, really messy. So, you know, tonight, just to sit back and talk about, you know, what does that look like, Bible, politics, and all this mess? Like, how do we even come up with Bible and politics even merging? How did that even happen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you have to look at the history of the Christian religion, right? And the faith. It's a political faith. When you look at the Gospels, Jesus engaged.
Now you be real slow because there's some people watching who like, it's a political faith. No.
So when you look at the Gospels, I mean, Jesus is not engaging in politics, you know, in the sense of I'm running for office, right? Or I'm, you know, bartering and trading, right, for power. Politics meaning that he is trying to shift the consciousness of the system, right? And he is advocating on behalf of those who the system has marginalized, left behind, left for dead, right, rendered voiceless because they use their power to do so. And so Jesus and the Gospels are political because he is attempting to shift the power dynamic and critique the powers that be, whether it be the Jewish establishment or the Roman Empire, right? So I don't think that at its core we can divorce political engagement, right, and that type of consciousness from our faith. Now, somewhere along the way, it got distorted, right, because someone used politics someone used politics and religion, right, in a way to give himself more power, right, and more authority. And by that I mean, you know, Constantine, right, when he used Christianity.
Let's talk about King James. I'm gonna throw it out there because I like to make people mad with them. King James made
I mean, political power. People like like Constantine and those who came to power after Jesus, long after he had been killed, right, in the Roman Empire, took their religion and used it to unify the empire, right? So it became a political religion of the state. And so it became watered down. I'm giving an abbreviated version of this, right? It's a long history, but just for the purposes of this, you know, trying to be brief with it, it got watered down along the way. And so a movement, literally a movement that was meant to give voice to those who had been deemed voiceless and disenfranchised, then became a tool of empire, right? And by a tool of empire, I mean a tool of imperialism, a tool of colonization, a tool of how you maintain power and how you maintain distance between the empowered and the disempowered, right? And so I think our job, Margaret, is to reclaim that original intent of the gospel, right, of Jesus, of John the Baptist, right, which was to use your faith and your witness publicly, right, to speak against systems that dehumanize and that disenfranchise, right? So that's what I mean by political.
I love how you merged into witness. The fact that you even brought that word up. So everybody who watches knows I'm a therapist, and we use witness a lot. So
you do. See, I'm learning something right now from you. I didn't know that.
We do. We ask people to sit with their parts or to sit with spaces. A particular system I use a lot is called internal family system. And we ask people to sit with these parts and witness the unburdening. So every time I have to sit in training or every time I use this, I think about our community. And what if we were to sit with this political part, sit with this, and I'm going to be honest, this limited understanding part of what Bible really looks like? Because the Gospels is a straight up empire, crazy story about one dude, and I'm calling him a dude, who just came to do his call, died on the cross and got back up. I mean, but it was a whole political thing. I mean, he flipping tables.
Right.
He telling women, I don't feed dogs. I mean, like he's saying a lot.
Seriously. And may I add, Margaret, that he is walking in a tradition, right? That before him, even in the Hebrew Bible, right? He's walking in a prophetic tradition of people who also took witness and God to mean, for better or worse, right? It's two sides to this because you can use it one way or another. But people who believed God to be one who is a God of justice and mercy, right? And so he walks in that tradition. Now, again, it can get a little messy, because particularly in the Old Testament. But no, like he's in line with these other prophets, right? And even Jesus gets messy along the way because he called, as you say, a woman a dog.
So
it's in the text.
It's in the text, real messy. Like, didn't even respond when people was finna throw rocks and stuff for the sake. So like it can get really messy when you look at it. But here we are in these parts. So how do we do that? And truthfully, Amber, I'm gonna be messy. How do we do that and invite our white counterparts to look at and be in these parts with us? Because let's be honest, we have black codes, we have we have slave leasing or criminal leasing. I mean, this is down, we're going down, right? So you come
slave laws.
And all of this is Bible based, by the way, you guys. Like, y'all go and look at it. You'll find a scripture on all of it. Then after Jim Crow, you have this mass incarceration. We sitting in spaces where black bodies are being murdered, and they doing it in the name of, and they got a Bible verse for all of it. That's correct. We don't know how to fight it, and so we don't know how to stand and go to the polls. We don't know, I mean, yesterday was not yesterday, the day before yesterday for me was just big because you saw two giants fall within 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours, right?
Yeah, for sure.
John Lewis, I mean, literally got bit, hosed, almost died on a bridge,
almost to death. I mean, if you've ever met him, the presence of him, just to know that's what happened and how humble he was to just talk to you anywhere. I mean, I met him at a Whole Foods and he talked to me for like 30 minutes and said, well, I'm hungry now, dude. I gotta go. John Lewis is like the world's most photographed man. Like, literally everyone has a photograph of John Lewis.
Like, you missed the opportunity if you didn't get it. So, because he was that personable. But what does it look like to sit in that part for white men and white women? And I'm purposely using that because these are the spaces that we created race, so like these white men, these white women have to understand what is this messiness of politics and Bible. We literally use this Bible to justify 3/5 of a man. So like, can we talk about that? Because that's Bible too. I mean, Bible has enslavement. We want to talk about that and say that it's biblical. But we justify 3/5 of a man, black codes, we Jim Crow, all of the stuff based on biblical practice. So can you give me something on that?
For sure. I mean, I think that is what we must wrestle with, right? The fact that, again, it gets messy, and that the same God that in our tradition, Margaret, that we look at as a liberator, right, and a redeemer, and on the side of the oppressed, someone else can read the Old Testament and say, no, God is a God of supremacy, right? Because God favors one group over another. And after they are, emancipated from Egyptian slavery, what do? They turn right back around and colonize someone else, right? So people rightfully, now, I shouldn't say rightfully, but people take the text and say, this is what it says, right? So therefore, I have the authority to use God's name to justify my conquest and my oppression of you and of others, because in the name of God, because this is the God of the text, right? Now there are those who push back and say that is one group of people's experience with God, right? That's who they interpreted God to be, right? So and therefore we should not all interpret God to be, a God of colonization, because the Hebrew children of Israel, believe God to be that for them. Right. And so you have that as well. But I mean, we don't want to sit with that. We don't want to sit with God, possibly ordaining our oppression. Right. And we don't want to sit with the God who could possibly, like William R. Jones says, could be a white racist. Right. But it's in the text, because on one hand, you see God calling up Moses and saying, go down to the seat of Egyptian power and let my
Mm-hmm.
people go. But then they also turn back around and enslave someone else and call it manifest destiny, right?
Yeah,
Because I promised you this land of milk and honey.
right.
So we got to sit with all of it, right?
But we don't like
Sit with all of it.
I don't think we like to sit with the fact that God is this. God is holy. God is a God of war. God is a God of justice. God is a God of mercy. And then the great Randall C. Bailey, I love him, also invited us to see that God is a God that allowed rape.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so,
rape,
looking at it
infanticide.
politically, we got mad when the Supreme Court justice is currently up there. He got away with it, but here we are. And God is the God of someone who allows someone to chop somebody up 12 times and mail them off. I mean, you don't want to hear that kind of stuff because we don't really interweave and go. God is the God that called women heifers and Amos.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to say that, so what do we
and our cop out is that, that's Old Testament. But I mean, truth be told, it shows up in New Testament too, because again, Jesus calls a woman a dog.
A dog.
Because of her ethnicity, right?
Because of her ethnicity.
Yeah. So that same supremacy shows up.
Right. So how do we manage it? And I started out like this. One of my favorite texts is Naaman. And I love it because I love how Elisha handles him. Yeah. I'm not going to come to the door for you. Like, I'm sending my son to tell you what to do. I ain't got time for that. So I don't know if people read it like that, but this is where, for me, it empowered people of color. And I don't, in this whole region is people of color, but in this case, Naaman is the oppressor. We don't like to read it. We love to know that Naaman dipped 7 times and got healed from leprosy. But let's talk about how this whole story starts out. His slave girl, like not his friend down the street, his slave girl. So that's the context.
The one that he owned.
The one he owned, let him know there's a man that can help you. Then the other slave woman invited him to keep going. So mind you, these people that he owned invited him to these spaces. So when we look at how this story plays out, here we are in America. The people that you own are the people that are inviting you to spaces of freedom, but you don't
healing.
And of healing, but you don't want to join in. Sad part is we now have some Black people who are sitting in that, who don't want to join into these spaces of healing, where you might be greeted by a servant at the door versus by the actual person. You got to understand to come to a space of humility. And I'll say it nice like that, because truthfully, you ain't worth their time or their day. So what happens, Amber, when this stuff happens? And this is happening in Atlanta right now. Like, we're watching it with our governor of Georgia and the mayor of Atlanta. Here we are. What do we do with this foolishness? Because this is now a big ball of mess. I'm telling you, I promise you, I asked Amber to do this a month ago, and then
and so much has happened in that month. Like, I mean, our governor is suing our mayor, right, over this whole mask mandate. Yeah. But you won't catch him leaving his mansion without a mask on, right?
Right.
You won't catch any of his people in his circle going out without a mask on because they know better. So you chose this Black woman mayor to attempt to silence her, and from implementing something that's so common sense, right? And it's utilitarian in nature. You're caring for the common good, of the majority by saying wear a mask. How is that infringing upon someone's right to be an American by saying wear a mask, right? I mean, but what kills me, Margaret, is how white folks find ways to make themselves feel oppressed. Right. Like, how is that oppressing you, wearing a mask and keeping your germs to yourself and not coughing on me? Right. Why do you want to be oppressed? It's not fun.
No.
Like, it's not fun.
And I find it funny that we sit and they find these ways, but we have people who are tackling it. Voter suppression.
Yeah.
Like, we are. Like, nobody's talking about that with the white people. It's like, well, y'all need to get up and vote. I can't get up and vote when you close 8 of the precincts in my area.
And when I get to my precinct, the lines are very long because there's only like 3 or 4 machines. The machines aren't halfway working. You don't have enough poll workers at the polling places, right? I mean, so this country has been in trouble for a long time, and it is more so in trouble right now because you have people in office who would rather uphold their party, right, versus the common good and common sense good, right? I
Yeah.
mean, again, it is going back to the whole mask thing, Margaret. It is common sense to wear a mask. Why are you throwing a temper tantrum in a grocery store, right? because you have to wear it. Like I don't get it. It's insane to me. And so it's hard to, a lot of times, Margaret, like it's hard to keep hope, because it's just like look at where we are right now. You got a man in office, president, who is just getting dumber and dumber by the day. Number one. Then you have other celebrities seeking office saying things like Harriet Tubman didn't free enslaved Africans, right?
Chicago was mourning. That's who's mourning right in Chicago.
Yeah, saying slavery was a choice, right? I mean, you have another old white man, and Joe Biden, who I will vote for, but at the same time, it's just like, damn, it's the best we can do.
It's the best.
It's the best we can do.
And it goes back to me looking like, how do we follow the story? If you follow the story, like you have all these people who are trapped. So like I have a lot of people who come up to me and be like, Jeremiah 29:11, my favorite scripture. I said, did you read 1-10? And it won't be your favorite scripture.
It won't be.
So, because you will realize they grew in captivity. Like they forgot they
literal exile.
They forgot, like, we exiled because they were building houses and owning businesses that never were going to belong to them. So coming back to this political mess and biblical practice, we sit in these spaces where we too are like owning a piece of the text, and then we want to make it great. But what does that look like? Because now a lot of us are sitting in spaces where we're recognizing we grew in captivity. We expanded what we thought was vision. We thought we were living dream, and then we're waking up realizing, we never
still in captivity.
We in captivity, like it was more to the movement. We missed it. Can you speak to that? Because this space is living in captivity and growing in it. We think because we had a black president that we're
post-racial now, that we made it,
but we're not.
Yeah, I think that's been our constant failure, is thinking that we have arrived, right? Once we get a little bit of progress, a little bit of something, policy wise, a little bit of, legislation that benefits Black folks, so we get comfortable and we get content. But again, we live in a slave holding nation, right? We live in an anti-Black nation. Woo. We live in a nation that reinvents slavery every single day.
That hurts. Right? That hurts, Amber.
Seriously. So you can never get comfortable. And I got that phrase, a slaveholding country, from Michelle Alexander, right, who wrote The New Jim Crow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She spoke at our conference last year that we had at Ebenezer on ending mass incarceration. And she was right in that this country, as I said earlier, reinvents slavery all the time. And as you said very succinctly, we went from chattel slavery to debt slavery, right, peonage. We went from that to, Jim and Jane Crow laws. We went from that to mass incarceration, right? We went from that to what's called the new Jim Code online, in how you have algorithms that perpetuate racist assumptions, right? So you have coded racism within our technologies and our artificial intelligence, right? So this country finds new ways all the time to reinvent racism. So we can never get comfortable rather in this country and think that we have arrived. And so my why I am right now is, number one, where do we go from here? Right? Yeah. What do we do knowing that this is what America is? I hate every time something happens, Margaret, someone in office always says, this is not who we are. This is who we are.
This is who we are.
It's who we are, and it's inherently who we are.
And I think, looking at this intersection, because we have we have a lot of intersections tonight. Mm-hmm. And so, because this is who we are, and I'm remembering James Baldwin's writings when he sat with Elijah Muhammad, and he too had to grasp. Yeah, I'm sitting here, and I don't want to admit that I love the policies and procedures that's happening in this house. Yeah, but this is who we are, and so here we are, Amber. Like, I don't want to admit that this is what it looks like, but like we
it's what it is, and
we grew up here. Like, you grew up in Mississippi, I grew up in Georgia. Mm-hmm. Like, this is who we are.
Yeah, and we have to not buy into it. and replicate it in our own spaces, right? Which we do
Right.
all the time. Unfortunately, we do it in our churches, we do it in in our communities. We replicate white supremacy and blackface all the time. And so those of us who want better Black futures, right? Those of us who want true liberation, the question is, do we find that here in this country, or do we go somewhere else, right? And if
You
we
gonna
go
put, you done
somewhere
put something else
else,
in this panel, honey. That you didn't.
yeah, seriously,
People got passports ready, but they done locked all.
girl. But at the same time, exactly. So we stuck here right now.
We
But at
stopped.
the same time, it's just like, if we go somewhere else, Margaret, we still gotta be sure that again, we don't replicate that same system in new spaces, right? Because I mean, Black liberation is not Black liberation if it's white supremacy and blackface, right?
Okay.
If we still carrying sexism and capitalism and all these isms, right, that dehumanize people into Black spaces that are supposed to be liberating and liberating, we haven't done the work. So we have to commit ourselves to figuring out, like, how can we best create Black futures that are not dependent upon exploitation, right, and disenfranchisement and oppression.
So, and all these questions, I promise, are going to lead up people who are watching, and for those who watch the replay, because I'm going to throw another question in. So, like, if this is supposed to be, Bible and politics and all that mess, and I'm thinking about Deuteronomy, and we have the power to get wealth. But then, what is it looking like when you invited me to reconsider that liberation for Black people really hadn't happened, but we've been wearing blackface? Well, my face is black. I mean, you telling me I'm
been wearing white face?
You know what? Are you telling me? But my black face is wearing white face, and I'm fighting like I'm free. So I'm gonna throw another one in there, because we got a lot of churches right now that are struggling. Like, they do not like this mess that we sitting in. The doors are closing, and they're closing for real. Like, not because you didn't have enough members, it's because you didn't catch up.
Yeah.
And so, what does that look like in this space of prosperity and Black liberation? Because I grew up thinking that liberation was, I own a particular car, I have a particular amount of land, I'm good. I didn't learn liberation, truthfully, until Clark Atlanta University, 2005. That's when I realized, oh, I'm not liberated at all. Like, so what does this look like? The liberation you're talking about versus what we preaching to people on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it takes imagination, right? And it takes restructuring and rethinking everything about ourselves and how we have lived our lives thus far. I mean, liberation means that you have no debt, right? And many of us have debt, student loan debt, credit card debt, house debt, and, various kinds of debt, right? Liberation means that you're not dependent upon material things to give you identity, right? So no matter what, car you drive, no matter what you're wearing, no matter where you live, your life is not contingent upon, and your value, I should say, your value is not contingent upon, material things that you have to go to someone else who don't look like you to get anyway, right? So I mean, I don't think that I'm 100% liberated, right? Because number one, I have debt. I have student loan debt I'm still paying off right now. I mean, I still, in many ways, am working to decolonize myself, because I catch myself all the time thinking stuff, and I'm like, oh shoot, that ain't it. So it really takes reimagining our entire existence, because our entire existence, first of all, in this nation, has been, number one, racialized, which is not natural, right? And number two, and not only racialized, but our race has been used as a justification to reduce us to tools of labor, right? So then we have to, deal with that. Then you have to deal with, how we interact between men and women, sexism and whatnot. Then you got to figure out, different sexualities and gender identities, right? I mean, it takes really undoing everything that was done to create us as we are right now.
And so this undoing, I'm going to go back to that internal family systems moment, this witness in this space of blending. So here's how we curve, because you just said a whole lot, and we have a whole lot of isms that push against what you just said we need to be liberated into.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like,
seriously.
wow. So
that we don't want to deal with. Like, we don't want to deal with transphobia and misogynoir and, you know, homophobia and xenophobia within our own communities.
And this, I'm looking confused because we don't. Because again, I'm gonna take it back. The whole title tonight this is a messy subject.
It's messy.
It's messy. And so, but right now we got a people who are sitting here like, well, it's okay to accept it right here because it funds me. I'm gonna bash it over here. And so somebody got on to me, but I'll say it right here. I'm tired of seeing hashtag black blank lives matter. I'm like, we all black, so can we fight one at a time?
Yeah.
And for me, I see where even the dissension amongst ourselves, like we've decided what part of black even matters. So going back to this biblical politic, we decided what is 5/5, even amongst ourselves, because this is how we've been groomed to start flipping this. Because you said sometimes we're hopeless. Yeah. So how can we start in the last half of this moving towards finding hope? Because we are in the space of hopelessness. Like if you black and you walk outside, you have to pray that you live. I used to could say outside, and if you a black man, you walk outside. But now, if you a black woman sleeping in your bed,
I mean, I was reading about a month ago that black women really, y'all can look this up. Those who are watching, black women are just as likely, if not more likely, to engage in some type of violent interaction with police than black men, right? Now, what we see on television and the media is more so black men, you know, being harassed and killed and whatnot. But black women, like we are just as vulnerable, if not more vulnerable. So it has never been safe for us. I mean, Fannie Lou Hamer was arrested and beaten in jail, you know, beaten in a jail by other black inmates, you know, by other black male inmates as well, and not just her white counterpart. So I mean, black women have never been safe, and we can't think that we are safe. Right. But we
can't. No, you're fine. Because we can't. But here's this notion of who will save us.
Yeah.
And I personally love the synergy of this particular part of movement. So I'm tired of people saying this is a new civil rights movement. No, it's the same one.
It's the same one. We still fighting for the same basic. The same basis of what's the comedian from Saturday Night Live? I can't think his name right now. But he said, Black Lives Matter is so basic. Matter. We matter. They matter. Lives matter. Basic. They matter. You know, it's so basic, right? And so, like you say, none of these struggles and fights are new. We just have to make sure that, again, we're fighting for all Black lives mattering, and not just those who, you know, who present themselves as male and masculine and, and heterosexual, right? But I think that we got to free ourselves. You know, like no one's gonna do it for us. We have to free ourselves. White folks not gonna do it for us. That they may help. You know, that they may amplify some of our issues. That they may give us money, you know, for our causes and whatnot. But they're not gonna. We got to free ourselves for real, and we have to be committed to all of us being free. Because if the Black woman is not, you know, free, right? You know, then the Black man ain't free. And then if the Black gay man or woman is not free, then the straight Black person is not free. If the trans person is not free, then the child is not free, right? If the child is not free, then the fetus is not free. I mean,
you know, and I think that we, just to even hear you say that, and I want it to be contention watching this, because we have learned that it's okay to separate ourselves. So we live in these boxes, and we don't get to witness. We don't get to witness the resurrection of who we are. She made her debut. We don't get to witness this resurrected peace, because we always get excited about when Jesus on the cross around our neck. Get excited about that, but we don't want to talk about the ugliness of it. And you know, James Cone. We don't want to talk about this lynching.
Jesus was lynched. He was Jesus died in the blackest way possible.
In the blackest way possible, but we don't want to talk about what current lynchings look like. If I can imagine if James Cone was here, Dr. Cone was here now, he would have to write he would have to edit that book. I mean, because now what is another, and this is just 10 years, by the way. I mean,
he wrote it right before I got to seminary, and did a talk on it when I was in seminary.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful book, but guess what? He would have to edit it because now where's our new lynching? I mean, we just shoot people. We just out here, and I mean, and I literally work for corrections in Atlanta.
Yeah,
I am not the one to walk around saying "fuck the police." I love it anyway, but that song I skipped because I'm like, you know what? I know some good ones. Like my cousin is an excellent one. But on the other hand, what does it look like when we start announcing what these public lynchings are looking like?
Yeah, I mean, you're putting folks in chokehold in public.
Yeah,
like you have your knee on people's necks in public.
These are public. Because you're talking about freedom, so I want to talk about what freedom doesn't look like, so we can move into this hope space. Because we got to call it what it is. These are public lynchings. And police are doing it. The sad part is the freedom came so much for police that we just got white men riding around in trucks doing it. Like I'm beat you while you run.
And you know something, we've always had a system of white male vigilante justice, though, because again, those fugitive slave laws gave regular folk the power to capture any black person they saw, you know, whether he or she was free or not, and sell them back into slavery, right? So the police in this country as a whole, and white persons have always felt empowered to police us in ways that seek to put us back in chains, right? And so the question becomes, how do you find freedom within the system and outside the system, right? And so one way that many of us, including our ancestor now, John Lewis, found a way to find freedom within the system is the vote, you know. But you got to go beyond voting as well. You know, you have to actually do organizing, right, in your community around justice issues. You have to actually go into your churches and try to get your theology free from white supremacy, because many of us in our black churches, our theologies mirror a white supremacist theology, right? Many of our structures, many of our church polities mirror white church structures, right? I mean, even those who are in office right now, we have the power to vote people out. And many times, you know, we mark incumbent and keep on going. And so a lot of these positions, such as DA, that people, you know, that we have the power to vote for, we don't, put up any alternatives, right? So then you have a situation like, Ahmaud Arbery down in Brunswick, Georgia, where the DA has been in that seat for years and years and years and has a long record, right, of anti-blackness when it comes to allowing folks to get off, particularly the police, when it comes to, misconduct and violence, right, against black people. So, I mean, we got to do work, and it's not, and that requires work in season and out of season. There's no downtime in the struggle, right? I mean, just because it's not an election year, for example, does not mean that, electoral politics have to stop. No, you have to be researching these people, figuring out, what they're doing while they're in office, what their track record is. And then, okay, if I feel like that person is not doing his, her, or their job, let me find someone else. Let's get behind someone else.
Because I'm finna believe devil's advocate. Because
go ahead, please do.
A lot of us are waiting on our pastors to endorse. I'm being honest. A lot of us are waiting on that. A lot of us are waiting on whoever to endorse. Like we don't know, because I think even in our minds we hadn't received a space of freedom where I can just go look for this myself. Like I don't need to wait on this person to say it. So we're waiting on our bishops, our whatever the name of your leader is, to endorse somebody.
Right, but before you feel comfortable trusting that person. I mean, my job on campaigns, largely besides fundraising and finance, has been faith outreach, right? So I get what you're saying. People get behind who they pastor get behind a lot of times. And that's for better or for worse. And so you have to be, somewhat of an independent thinker and say, okay, who best serves, my needs and needs of my people? And if you don't, I don't care who my pastor endorses, you can't get my vote, right? I mean, I have gone against people, that I trust many times because I'm just like, that person they don't have a black agenda. They're not centering black people, black and brown people, in their policy making. And so I can't get behind you just because
you said something that is finna tear everybody up. They don't have a black agenda. So But we
Yeah.
supposed to be like that, being brothers and sisters, because the Bible say that we one body.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confused on how you asked me to have a black agenda, but we one body. I'm how we supposed to do that, Em? Because we finna move into this hope space. Because I don't know how to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, first of all, context is key. Number one. Number one, context is key. You know, was there a multiracial democracy, right? That those persons lived in when they were speaking about being a, you know, one body, or if they were in a place where they were the minority, you had an empire that, you know, lorded over them. They were a lot of times talking about accommodating just to survive, right? Just to endure. And so the question then becomes, how do you go from a theology of, you know, survival and accommodating and endurance to one of actually, you know, breaking the system and getting free, right? Yeah. So, and your question was again, go back to it.
How do we do it? Because I know you said context. That was one of the answers.
Yeah.
Like, because we're split in this space of, okay, we're supposed to unify.
Yeah. I got you.
So, but I don't know how to unify with you.
Yeah.
When you want to lingo about me, like I'm a black female, and you keep saying, "But you're my sister." But what's the bet then? Because I'm confused. Like why?
I had forgot what I was gonna say next, but you just helped me remember what it is now. So when I say black agenda, what I mean is a lot. So for example, with the civil rights, you know, legislations that passed in the 60s and 70s, right? Mm-hmm. Mainly the 60s. Those policies benefited more than just black folk. They benefited women, benefited gay people, benefited brown people, benefited white people, right? Yeah. So history has shown us that when black people are afforded, you know, legal protections, and laws are written that recognize our humanity, they don't just benefit us, they benefit everybody, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, affirmative action benefited white women and white men, and in many cases than it did, or more cases, a lot of times than it did, you know, black people. You know, when it comes to these social programs, we want to say that black people, you know, are sucking up these social programs. No, we want to know who benefits, you know, from welfare the most? White women, right? You want to know who gets these business loans, you know, the most when it comes to, you know, minority business loans and whatnot? White women, you know, and farmers, you know, who a lot of times, you know, white men.
You know, and they even block that for black farmers. So like, I love podcasts. So I was listening to 1619. I think it was the last one, where they literally find a way, like you said, algorithm. So here we are in this new slavery move, the algorithm. Like tonight, if I don't get a lot of likes, loves, and shares, this ain't gonna hit whatever platform. So the algorithm is what we're fighting for. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like the algorithm, when it comes down to getting the loan for the farmland, so they can maintain it, because I don't even think people realize they have to take out a loan for land they already own. I was confused when I was listening to it. But because the algorithm of you being black and you're growing, I got to reduce that. So I get the money to the white dude. Mm-hmm. Grow his phone catch up with you. Like that's still a mode of slavery for us. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because how are we going to get out of it? Because we're sitting here saying equal rights. We need to be equal. We need to be fair. We need to worship with our white brothers and sisters. We need to switch over and just modernize their music, put a beat on it, and then we can be right there with Kim Walker Smith. I ain't gonna lie, I got like a bunch of her albums. I love them. At the end of the day, Kim Walker Smith, I understand my black struggle, you know. So what happens, like, you know, we could keep going because this is giving hope to people. Like, how do we sit here and participate in black liberation, understanding our black bodies, and not trying to code switch over to this white space and white space?
Yeah, and white folk got to realize as well, Margaret, that they're also victims of white supremacy, right? That they're also victims of this system.
I
mean, it eats at their core more so than it does ours, right? Because they don't realize, number one, how deadly it is to buy into this system. You know, like you're prolonging a system that in many cases does not benefit, you know, working class and poor white people, right? So you're trying to maintain a system that also doesn't recognize you as fully human as well, because you're, you know, and even if you are, you know, a rich white, you know, or well-to-do white man or white woman, again, like it eats at you too. So you're a victim of as well, because your livelihood and your freedom is contingent upon my oppression and my dehumanization, right, and my exploitation. So you're not free because your freedom, what you think is freedom, is dependent upon, me not having a voice and not being free. So you were slave to it as well, right? I mean, what's it called? Lordship and bondage with Hegel, that he paints for us in his philosophies, right, in his writings. So, I mean, we all have a vested interest, or we should see. I think we all should see that we all have a vested interest, in tearing down this system that eats at all of us. But again, we want to benefit from it for as long as we can, whether it's black or white or whatever, Asian, Hispanic, Latino. Many of us benefit from this system because it offers us material gain and comfort at the expense of someone else. And that's not freedom, and that's not what we should be fighting for. And I'm not sure if I'm reading right now Eddie Glaude's book Begin Again, where he is he's reading James Baldwin's essays and thinking about how do we go from where we are in this country towards a multiracial democracy. Now, I don't think we'll ever get there, in my opinion, because I'm just like, where in the world do you see a multiracial democracy at work? You don't, so is that even a possibility? And should that even be the goal, right? At the same time, though, we have to realize that none of us are going to be free if we are all slaves to whiteness and white supremacy. So yeah, that's the challenge.
So and I sit here, like I said, we made up race. People don't like.
And by saying made up race, go into what that means.
So it's a construct. We made that up so that we can divide and put people into spaces
and categories.
To where we thought they fit. So this again is a construct that we made up. So I agree with you, Amber. Like,
not me and you.
Yeah, not me and you.
But
America.
It's an enlightenment construct.
Yeah.
Right.
And so this construct we're sitting in, I don't think that will ever be possible. And I'm not even being negative, but a construct can be deconstructed. So I don't think it is ever going to be possible for this multi-race thing that people are looking for, because I can pick what race I am whenever I need to do it. It's like you're saying, I can pick what I need to be so it will be gain for me. But here we are, and I want to show, like, what is true Black liberation in this moment? Because now tonight we're sitting at this intersection of, and tonight is religion and emotional wellness. And so truthfully, we're sick as a nation. And then you scale it down.
And again, we're what?
We're sick as a nation, very sick, very sick. And then we sit under an oppressive system that's narcissistic. It's just literally thinking about how can I get more gains? This system was built, this nation was built on gain. How can I get more gains? We want to say that it was built on religious freedom, but it was really built on how can I get more gains?
The whole modern world. The whole modern world.
It's built on gain. And so what happens when we run out of gain? And we have to really ask this question, what is true Black liberation? Because we're running out of what to gain. Like we don't really have anything else so we're killing now, whether we're murdering.
You sound like a Marxist. You sound like Karl Marx right now.
I love Karl Marx.
I love him too.
Sociology major first.
Listen, I was reading Communist Manifesto yesterday out loud to my husband, like just reading it out loud for real. And in that first little chapter, Karl Marx says that the bourgeoisie class tries to find new ways to create, as you say, more gains, right? And when they run out of it, they go into other places around the world.
I got to get more.
I'm gonna suck more out. It is a sickness.
I got to keep doing it because I'm a socialist. I have to be honest with people. I absolutely am. And so instead of spreading this, we got to get more gains. And so where are we in the gains now? We're killing people. We're killing our psyches. We're killing our bodies. We just let out our spirit. Like there is no biopsychosocial spiritual evenness or groundedness right now. Like we're all sitting in this space of trying to get gains. I want to invite Black people tonight because I'm really hard with that word, Black. Like to sit back and realize, go read Jeremiah 29, 1-10 and pause at 11. Don't even skip down. Don't even think that this is going to be the glory moment. And see what it looks like
in that tension.
Yeah, sit in attention, because the God of my understanding got me sitting in captivity, prospering. I don't own any of this. None of it belongs to me. Like, as soon as they tell me that they want it, they're gonna come and grab it. Sit with that, and
it's a facade. It's an optical illusion.
Yeah, the illusion of how we think we have survived and made it. And what does it look like? Because I'm throwing Bible and politics. That was political. Like, if the kingdom came, if the empire shows up and says it's mine, and you done worked out hard for it and everything, guess what? If we want to follow the Bible, then you lose it. Like, you lose it. Yeah, you lose it every time. You don't own it. If we want to sit here and fight for it, then Naaman owns some slaves. And that's why the prophet was like, I'm not finna fool with you. Like, no, it ain't because you got leprosy. I don't want to fool with you. I want to fool with you because you own my people.
Listen,
these are the people like these are the people like C.T. Vivian. These are the people like King. These are the people who were fighting. Like, you got Andy Young and you got Jesse Jackson still here. Like, these are the people. This is why they was fighting. Like, you own our people.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the great Reverend Dr. Latricia Scriven, my second chapel service at ITC as a student, she was preaching about the 10 talent, the parable of the 10 talents.
Yeah.
And we prosperity gospelized that text so much, but her conclusion was, a slave is still a slave. Right? And so the person who won is the person who broke out of that system, not the one who gained the most, right? The one who pleased his master the most by multiplying the talents within the system, but the one who didn't benefit the master at all and didn't multiply the talents. Therefore, when he was banished from the kingdom, he was actually freed from it, right? And so we demonize him for being lazy and not furthering, not building up, the master's treasury, right?
Yeah.
But what he did was smart. He pulled out from the system. And so, what does it mean in terms of Black liberation to pull out of the system? I mean, I'm still working through what that means. To be quite honest, I haven't fully conceptualized that yet. Because while I believe, in voting, while I believe in mobilization, while I believe in, in laws and, in changing unjust laws and whatnot, while all that is great, at the same time, we still live in a country that at its core is a slaveholding country, right? And everything it does goes back to that. And we're constantly fighting against those who want to maintain that, right? Who want to see to it that those of us who are brought here as slaves know our place and continue to live as such, right? In new ways. And so while I am a fan, and I will never say don't vote and whatnot, as you said, so clearly we still live in a system of captivity at the end of the day. So what is our next move then? Do we, break away from this, and build our own nation, right? Do we, find a way to still survive within this one and try to change it, incrementally, right? As we have been doing, or do we just, accept it as it is? Now, number 3, I'm not doing accepting as is, right? And I am quite, frustrated with, number 2, change in increments, right? Because people are dying every day. Every time, we don't pass, comprehensive change when it comes to economics, education, and healthcare, criminal justice, right? All these different things. Every day that goes by that we don't recognize that these systems, keep Black and brown folks, in this sub status, right? Means that someone dies every single day, either literally or spiritually, right? And so I lean more towards, while we're here, vote and whatnot, but at the same time, let's make plans to leave this place.
I get my passport is ready. I'm ready. Like, it's ready. Mm-hmm. So, but
let's get up out of here.
But while we're here, I want to throw this out, because I know people normally watch me after. They'll come back because we say a lot of stuff and they're like, click it off. Like, I don't want to hear that. But please watch this whole thing. Because Amber is like a genius. I mean, I love how she breaks it down. I love how you and Billy break it down. Like, there's no way I can sit here tonight and say I didn't understand what was going on. So like, you make it very understandable.
I try to make it plain.
Yeah. Well, because we don't our community really doesn't know what to do politically. We get on the school board, we can change the minds. Nah, if you get on the school board, you manage your district. Like
exactly.
I mean, you don't. You got your district. You know, like
you made it sound so simple. That was so funny.
Yeah, but okay, thank you. You know, I'm not knocking it. You know, because at least you made an effort. But you're not finna be the president. Like you get, like I'm on the school board. Like no, you
even not, the president. Like even the president is beholden to empire, right? Like President Barack Obama, we loved him, but he was beholden to empire. You know, I mean, he was responsible also for creating and maintaining wars abroad. You know, so they all maintain in some way empire, right? So even the president,
so we got to get more gains. So like this. You made it so plain tonight on how to access and move into this political space. And tonight I had no intentions of coming back saying, you know, this is what the Bible say about voting, because I'm not going to find it. So I'm not going to try.
It's not everything. Let me just say this right quick. This is your thing, you know. Y'all listening. Every question that you have in life, every issue that you have in life is not going to be found in the Bible. Because modern things and modern ways of life that we experience were not experienced in the Bible, right? Now, you may find inspiration on how to navigate, you know, the modern intricacies, right, of life, but you will not find answers to everything in the Bible.
And you have interrupted the people. I promise. I promise you. I heard a pastor say, you know, that the chariot with Elijah on it was a modern day flying car. I said, sir. I said, then it caught fire. Then it. Sir, bye. So you know, I mean, because of everything that you need,
and that's not a bad thing, though. Like that's not a bad thing. That just means that we have to rely on our faculties of reason that God gave us. God gave us sense for a reason. You know?
I scream it all the time. You're your own living epistle. Like, what are you writing? What are you adding to the body of knowledge? Like, going looking.
You are a sacred text.
Like, what you are a sacred text. So, what are you adding to the body of knowledge? Because if you sit here and tell me that you follow something out of 2 Kings, well, I hope it worked for you. But if you tell me that you actually got a job to pay your bills, that's good. That's wonderful. If you tell me that you got inspiration from something in the text, be very careful what your inspiration looks like. That's why I brought up Deuteronomy chapter 8. Like, I got the power to get what it inspired you, but understand the wealth they were talking about was exactly what me and Amber were talking about tonight. Like, how are we going to keep building Black community and leading to Black liberation? Mind you, we also had a mandate from God to go destroy some other lands and call it milk and honey. Like, I mean, we're going to take people captive. So if
there's no way around that. You got to
if you're going to follow it, then understand the liberation in the Bible for you, if you're going to follow that particular text, means oppression for another. Now, if you want to stay in the text on that, in order for me to live in a state of liberation, I have to oppress another. Or we can come into this space of understanding that I am my own living epistle. And then for me to walk in reconciliation of self and then walk into reconciliation with others, I must know thyself. Like I must get to know these parts, these pieces of me, and know who they are, so that when I present for reconciliation, I've already reconciled with myself. There's nothing that you can do to tell me I'm not Margaret L. Conley. Thank you.
That is so good. Reconcile with yourself so that when you meet others, right, you don't take those old parts with you into your interaction with others,
right,
where your first instinct is to figure out how you can exploit, right? And so this is why, you know, I try to stay away from, you know, I love our ancestors, you know, they did the best they could, you know, being, you know, not being literate and just hearing secondhand these biblical stories, right? And so that they found inspiration in the Israelites, you know, because they were free from bondage. But, you know, with what we have now, you know, our literacy, you know, and our, you know, how we can discern and, you know, and interpret the text, we can't keep seeing ourselves as that. Because, you know, I can't affirm a theology or aligning myself, you know, with the people who, once they got freedom, turned around and, you know, and put in chains somebody else, right? I mean, it's in the text. It's in the text, you know. And so in the Joshua 24 text where the writer, is recounting, the narrative, and says, "As for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord."
Did
In
you read
my
the
in my
cover?
hermeneutic, that is said publicly, to the elders, the men, right, the male elders, and company, because they had just slaughtered the Canaanites. Your God gave you the power to slaughter the Canaanites, right? So why would you not, you and your household that you speak for as a male serve the Lord, right?
Right.
Because your God just helped you win in battle. And so I can't affirm that. I don't know God to be there for Black people, and I don't think that Black people should know that to be God for us.
Right.
Because again, when we go into our next phase of existence, whether it's still here in this country or beyond this country, right? If we create a new one, a new nation, we can't take that with us. We have to do the work, as you say, of deconstructing the ways in which white supremacy and supremacy in general, has seeped into, our ways of being and doing and living, right, and engaging, and free ourselves from that. Because again, I don't. It didn't feel good, knowing that I've hurt somebody. For example, I'm an empath. I can't stand hurting people or seeing people hurt.
Right.
Right? Like I can feel it. If someone's crying, I'm gonna start crying too, because I can feel it.
Yeah.
Or if I'm watching a movie and someone's being beaten, I feel those, licks inflicted against that person. So it would not feel good to me to turn around and use my power against someone else to disempower them. Like that's not what God, is calling us to do and be. That's not what God desires. At least not the one I serve and worship, right?
That's good. So to recap, we sit here and we walk through some spaces. This was not a totality of anything. I encourage people every time, open your own books and read them. And the sacred text.
Like James Cone said, ITC, write your own book.
Right. Yeah. But, read your sacred text, talk to the God of your understanding. But I also invite you to go look at some scholarly writings. Like, people are not just out here having epiphanies. Don't believe memes. Like, go read them for yourself.
Help us.
And go seek this space of liberation, so that you can get beyond the isms.
Yeah. You want to know what I'm reading right now, Margaret? I'm reading now Race, a Theological Account by J. Cameron Carter. Right? It's a long book. It's gonna take me a couple years to read this because it's real long. And I have to like digest stuff. Like, I'll read a chapter, take a couple days off, take some notes, meditate on it, start back again, right? So I read real slow. So I mean, you're right. Please read.
Please read and go find spaces. I want Amber tonight, because if y'all didn't hear anything else she said, she asked a really strong question. I hope people investigate it. What does it mean to truly have Black liberation? What does it mean for us to come out of whiteface? And that was a hard question for me. I had to sit with that. Like, that really did. That tagged me, because I'm like, I'm growing locks. Like, I'm finna be the blackest Black you never met.
Yeah.
Like, I got
and
my
Black. Still carry the residue of whiteness with us sometimes.
I had to remember that when I get in particular spaces, I code switch, because I don't have an option. Like, I don't have an option for my LCSW to shine in those spaces. I literally have to pull it out, and I got to pull it out harder than the people sitting there in front of me. And it disgusted me this weekend. I was in a space. I was the only Black female there, and I was the only Black person there, and it disgusted me. The people didn't, but I was code switching the whole time, trying to stay present, and I finally lost it when somebody said that there was a question asked, could a particular method be used on Black people? And it was a Black person that asked, and I'm like, I can't, and I blew, because that's why I'm human. And so just the simple fact that you invited us to take whiteface off, or to not code switch, that was huge tonight, Amber. So more people, they're gonna have to digest that.
And be real how we carry that. Like, none of us can deny that in some way we carry the residue of white supremacy into our spaces. Yes. Right? We all do it all the time.
And we've learned how to manipulate it. Like, we learn how to manipulate it. Because we learn how, okay, well, I can use this little piece. and WB Du Bois is brilliant in talking about the talented 10th. But the talented 10th also had to sit in whiteface. Like,
yes, indeed.
the consciousness that they had to carry around. Like, I gotta know when to be a lowered self because I don't want to blow it for this big movie about to make. And that's a big, it sits heavy with me that I can't bring all of my blackness, my femininity, my sexuality to tables sometimes.
And you know something, Margaret, two things. Number one, on one hand, was talented tip, also in my interpretation of it was low key like a eugenics project, right?
Absolutely. Everything was low key. Can I be?
Yeah, like high key a eugenics project, like number one. And then number two, Margaret, like people, when you find a way to be all of yourself in every space that you go into, folks don't know how to handle that because they have not figured out a way to be their full, whole, true, authentic self, right? And so they make it seem like something's wrong with you, and I hate the word hate, but they start hating on you because you found a way to be your true, authentic self. You found yourself, right? And you're unapologetic about who you are, and they haven't gotten there yet. And
I'm gonna back, girl. We had this hour and 5. We done hit the whole topic. This is gonna be a part 2. But but tonight, people who are watching, I want y'all to follow Amber. So I'm gonna ask her, to say her stuff, and then what I really want y'all to do is bless Amber. Amber does all of the stuff she's talking about at a very low pay. Let me tell you, because it's a nonprofit organization. They out here sweating. Georgia hit 100 degrees the other day. I said,
yeah, it was 95 today.
But I would really like, if she can like put up whatever her information is, and however we can give her something.
Thank you.
Because you gave us something that I'm not hearing in our Black community on how to get access. Like the last time I heard somebody really push a vote, like the way you did tonight, and be like, no, voting really does matter. And then just giving it to us raw. Like, understand that this is empire, this is politics across the board. Hopefully it took the shame down for some people tonight and encourage them, go vote, go sit
in every election, not just presidential, in every single one. That means state, local, municipal, right, county elections, and federal. Vote every time there's a race, go vote.
Right. And put yourself out there. And for all people, recently I encourage people to go run. For sure. I thought about political office the other day. It was so bad. I was like, I need to look at the political side of social work. But
girl, folks have asked me. I'm like, I cuss too much, but people, people have. I ain't cussed on here, but like one time, I think. Right. But in real life, I cuss a lot.
I'm for those who need it. Yeah, I encourage you guys to go to your local spaces and apply to be someone who's on the ballot. Like,
or find somebody, to support. Like, if your person ain't doing his or her job or their job, you and your people get behind somebody and prop them up, right? I mean, it's work, but it's I've seen it work though. Like I've seen it work so many times. I mean, we have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in Congress right now, right?
Yeah,
had never been in any office. One of the most progressive voices in Congress, right? Because she said, I see a need. Y'all are sending this country to hell in a handbasket. We need young progressives, who are doing the work and are committed to fighting for folk, in this space and in this way, right? But y'all can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is It's Amber Lowe. That is ITS Amber AMBER LOWE. On Facebook, I am Amber Louisa Lowe WoodFork. A lot of names. My first, middle, maiden and married last name, Amber Louisa Lowe WoodFork. On Twitter, I am Rev Run Lowe. That is REVRUN Lowe, LOWE. I talk a lot of noise on Twitter, more than Facebook. Twitter. Listen. I thought today, I was like, Twitter came out in 2009, I think, or 08. I've had a Twitter for that long. So,
you might be up there with Reverend Will Gaffney. Now that machine, that's a Twitter machine, baby. She's like,
I think I follow her. I know we're friends on Facebook. I think I follow her on Twitter as well.
She comes hard.
Yeah. And then my cash. First of all, thank you for even, asking folks if they feel, so moved.
Honey, yeah. You don't make no sense. I know what you do.
Girl. You're so sweet.
You try vocational.
Listen, girl, I got a lot of vocations. My cash app is Rev Lowe. That's hashtag REVLOWE.
Say it one more time for me.
REVLOWE. Rev Lowe. Yep. But yeah, thank you so much again, Margaret, for inviting me.
Are you welcome?
Yeah, I mean, you're so dope because again, I don't, hear enough of the therapy lens through which we do theology enough, right? It's a world of possibilities and thought that many of us have not tapped into when it comes to, again, how sick we are as people and how sick our theologies are and how we have to do the work of healing, right? Personally and communally, if we're trying to do the work of freedom. So thank you for what you do, your vocation.
I appreciate you. You couldn't have paid me that I would be doing this. And then I do not, I don't take it lightly to be able to have a platform where people actually want to listen. So everybody who watches, thank you for watching On the Men. Y'all see this as a healthy and holy conversation. Y'all hear more about that as soon as I get the information on what that means, and I'll let everybody know. So, but On the Men, thank you guys for watching. Y'all have been faithful it's been almost 2 years I've been doing On the Men. So, thank you guys. And so look forward to next month. I had to go down to once a month because y'all keep sending me clients. I'm excited.
That's a blessing, though. Come on, clients.
It is. It's a blessing. So I have Lisa Savage coming next month. So that's 2 social workers.
I don't know. Familiar. Do I know Lisa Savage?
You probably do. Lisa Savage is all over. So she is one of the founders of Clinicians of Color, which is now like a yes. So
I am familiar with her. Dope. So dope.
Lisa Savage is dope. Like when I say she went ham on some of our clinical spaces that are like national, worldwide, and I said, can you please sit with me? She was like, no problem. So I was like, okay. So yeah, she's amazing. So, and Amber, you, my dear, are amazing. If y'all didn't get anything tonight, because you were not listening. So y'all stay on the mend. Amber, we love you. And
love you too, sis. Thank you.
Please, y'all support Rev Lowe. So y'all see the Cash App and give us something tonight. Love you. And I will see you guys next month on the Men.